Today, we're doing a few things new. I'm going to talk about this passage of Scripture that we read, but there's a kind of a subtext to it that I hope you don't miss, and so I'll say something about it as we go forward. All the things that happen in this text really apply because he's talking about love. We're going to have in the back of our mind the love that a mother has for her children as part of the application of what we see. We're doing something else new today for the very first time. We're attempting to make a video recording of this part of the service. So pray for that as success, because we can then review and remind ourselves of what we've heard, and others will be able to see and benefit from some of what's going on here. So that's another new thing that we're attempting today. I want you to think with me for a minute about today's text, John chapter 15, verses 9 to 17, in which Jesus continues his extended discourse that he engaged in on the night of his betrayal. It's appropriate to read such a text on Mother's Day. The love of a mother for her children is perhaps the most accessible human experience of the kind of all-encompassing, unconditional, yet uncompromising, and in a certain way demanding love that the Father has for his children. If you'll notice on the front of the Sunday bulletin that you got today, there's a little saying, it's almost hard to read. It says, "Mothers, a revelation of the Father's heart." So keep that in mind as we go through this today, that when we look about the love of God, we're going to see it in part through the lens of the love of a mother for her children. Now, this lecture on love that Jesus gave really starts probably in John chapter 13, beginning in verse 31, and goes all the way to 16:33. And you could say it goes further than that, because it starts with the washing of feet and ends with the prayer that Jesus prayed on behalf of all his people in John chapter 17. The entire passage is John's recollection of Jesus' final discourse after the Last Supper before his arrest. Okay, he's getting ready to go away. He knows he has no more time to spend with these ones who are so dear to him. The real introduction to this passage then, and the context for it, would be in John 13, verse 1, where it says, "When Jesus knew that that the hour had come for him to depart this world and go to the Father, having loved his own who are in the world, he loved them to the end." So this is Jesus' message of love toward his disciples in the last moments they have together. So everything is laden with meaning as he does this discourse. Now, let's kind of go through it bit by bit, and we'll see if we can get an understanding. "As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Abide in my love." That's where he starts. The Father's love for Jesus was announced in the baptism, and it was repeated at the Transfiguration. "This is my Son, whom I love, in whom I am well pleased." Okay. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. How did God love Jesus? We would say he was proud of his Son. He loved him through and through. He loved him just for being his Son. He loved him, and he was pleased with him, and he wanted him to succeed in everything he did, and he knew that he was representing what his Father wanted in the world. What parent does not feel that way about their child? What parent does not say, I love my child because that's my child? I love my child because I'm proud. You know, when you look at your own kid doing anything at all, you're like, that's the best thing in the world. That's the best kid in the world. That's the, you know, I mean, did you see that boy swing that bat for the first time? You know, have you seen this little drawing that my little girl made? You know, put that up on the refrigerator, put it on the wall, whatever the accomplishment might be. A parent is proud. So God, we would say it was proud of Jesus. And Jesus says, I've loved you the same way. He's got these 12 guys that he's chosen from among the crowd to walk with him, and he is loving them as his Father has loved him. He has invested in them. He's tried to shape them. He's tried to instruct them. He's given them everything of the best that he has received. And now he's saying, you know what, guys? I've done everything I know how to do for you. I've given you, I've not held back. And now I'm only asking you to do one thing. Stay with it. Stay with it. This word abide, I was trying to think of how to talk about this old-fashioned religious word abide, which appears in John 15 a number of times. So I looked it up. It's a word that means to remain, to stay, to continue, to dwell, to endure, to stand, to be present. It just means keeping on. Stay with. Don't leave behind the love that I have for you, because it is important. Okay, just keep at it. Don't quit. Stay convinced. I'm going away, he's saying. But my love is not leaving you. That's very important for us to know, those of us who have been loved by anybody. And I think one of the problems with being a parent is that in the best of all worlds, you know your children are going to outlast you. And so every parent can picture themselves, I think, saying something like this to their children. I have loved you like I have been loved as well as I can. I just want you to stay with it. Amen. Now, when he talks about staying with it, he says, here's how you're going to stay with it. If you keep my commandments. Oh boy. Now, this might be where we leave preaching and go to meddling, but hold on with me. I looked this one up too. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. Oh my, does that mean we have to remember a whole list of rules and instructions and things that he's told us to do? And no, it's not exactly like that. Looked up that word keep. Keep. Same word is used in Matthew chapter 28, verse 20, when Jesus said, a little bit later on, after he rose from the dead, and he's getting ready to go away into heaven, he said, Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I commanded you. Now that word keep and that word observe are the same thing. Okay. I looked up another one just to see if I was on the right track. Back when Jesus was born, and a number of things happened, the shepherds came, and there were prophecies made over Jesus at the temple when he was dedicated, and he was revealed to be more than what he seemed to be at 12 years old when he went to the temple. It says Mary treasured these things in her heart. Well, that word treasure is the same word keep, observe, with a little emphasis added. Okay, so in other words, we want to stay with not just Jesus as he loves us, but what he's instructed us to do. Keep in mind, live your life with a view to the things that he has said. Amen. Let those be the lens or the prism through which you see the world and what's going on in it, through which you see the events of your life. keep my commandments doesn't mean do a bunch of things that I told you to. It means bear in mind everything that I have instructed you with so that you know how to respond when the world throws its stuff at you, which it surely will. And he says, I'm not doing this. Well, he doesn't say that. He just says, I'm telling you these things so that my joy may be with you. I'm not trying to lay something heavy on you. I'm trying to give you a gift. I want my joy to be, I want you to keep on in joy. I want you to enjoy your life. Again, what parent does not want that most of all for their kids? I'm saying these things to you so that my joy will stay with you and your joy will be complete. Wow. The purpose is joy. It's always good to know that when God calls on us to do something, when he requires something of us, it's because it's going to give us a benefit more than the cost that it's going to require. Again, think of a parent with the children. You know, it's for your own good. And you know, and sometimes it's hard to hear. I'm telling you this because, I mean, and there's all kinds of echoes maybe in your head from your own parents. You'll thank me later, whatever the expression might be. Well, Jesus is saying, I'm telling you these things because I want you to have the fullness of joy. So then, the final thing he says, now this is the commandment I want you to keep. Love one another. Now, can you imagine, again, a parent in the final discourse saying to all the kids, will you guys get along when I'm gone? Will you look after each other? Will you take care of each other? Will you see to the best for each other? Because that's what I would do if I was going to stay with you forever. I'm not staying with you forever. So here's what I want you to keep. Here's what I want you to observe. Here's what I want you to treasure in your heart. Love one another. That's all. It's not that hard. It's going to do you good. You're going to get joy out of it. You're going to get a huge amount of benefit from it. And don't just love one another any old way. Love one another the way I have loved you. And he already said, I've loved you the way my Father loved me. So love one another unconditionally. Love one another extravagantly. Well, love one another even in the face of things going wrong. Love one another in a way that expects the best from each other. Love, 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 love. And do it persistently. And just to be sure that they understand the nature of this love, there is no greater love than this, that a person lay down his life for his friends. And then he says, you are my friends if you do what I'm telling you. I no longer call you servants, I call you friends. He points forward at this point in time to the cross. I'm about to lay down my life. Again, I'm thinking about mothers today. There's a lot of sleepless nights. There's a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of giving with no thank yous that goes on. There's a lot of laying down of one's priorities in one's life for the sake of the people, the child, the children. And Jesus is like that with his disciples. He was like that with the whole people of God, of Israel. Remember somewhere in Luke, as he's approaching the city, it says he wept over it and he said, how often I would have gathered you as a hen gathers the chickens under her wings, and yet you would not. He expressed his love for the people of God in the way that a mother hen loves the chicks. Okay. So this is not, I'm not even making this up. This is already there in the Bible. Amen. No one has greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. So it's what you do when it doesn't feel good, what you do when no one says thank you, what you do when there's nobody there to give you recognition, what you do when it costs you, that's also love. Amen. And he says, that's how I've loved you. That's how I want you to love one another. I think it was Mother Teresa who said, love till it helps. You know, just keep on doing it. So we have the cross before us as the supreme example of what love is. And of course that's echoed in John's letters when he says we know love by this, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our life for one another. Where does he get that? He gets it from back here, what Jesus said. So then he says, you get to be my friends. You know, children grow up. Eventually the children become the parents and the adults, the responsible ones, making the decisions, right, wrong, or indifferent. Sometimes, you know, when that person who reared and nurtured you looks at you in the eye and calls you their equal, that's almost inconceivable, but it happens. And that is a joy, to be able to do that for someone that you've invested in. So Jesus says, I'm not keeping anything from you. You're not my hired help. You're not my slaves. You're my friends, because I'm here telling you everything I've learned from my Father. I'm giving you all I've got. And because of that, one more thing. Because of that, he says, you know, I picked you. Now I'm thinking about adopted children. The ones, now I think every child is in the family on purpose, born or adopted. Okay. He says, you didn't pick me. And that's true of all of us. We didn't pick our parents. We didn't pick the ones who loved us and cared for us or nurtured us. He says, you didn't choose me, I chose you. Okay. I've got the responsibility for you because I picked you. He says, and here's what I chose you to do. I chose you for you that you can go and bear fruit. Fruit that will last. I looked up that word too. It's the same word as abide in the beginning. Fruit that's going to stay with it. Fruit that's going to mean something. Fruit that's going to matter. Fruit that's going to have its own effect. I was walking out here today and I noticed the ground littered with seeds from trees. I mean, it's a mess out there. And I got thinking, you know what? There are thousands and thousands of seeds out here on the ground, and a few of them are going to bear fruit. We're the people of God. We're intended to bear fruit. We may have to scatter lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of seeds. But God's plan is that you got all the seed in the world to scatter, and you can go ahead and scatter it because some of it's going to bear fruit. And whatever takes root and bears fruit is going to last. So you want to have an influence on what's going on in 100 years from now and not just 100 years ago? Keep scattering seeds. I've chosen you, I've ordained you that you may go and bear fruit. Now in the bearing fruit process, there's a lot of scattering that's going on. So that says that we can come back to this passage and when it talks about, when we talk about how to grow the church. But he says, I've appointed you. And he's saying that to the 12 apostles, but by extension he's saying it to us. I picked you. I appointed you. I have an assignment for you. There's something for you to do, and it's going to be effective. Because nothing God does falls to the ground. So that the Father will give you whatever you ask him in my name. We're not even going there, but there's plenty about the fact that once we are remaining with him, once we're keeping His commandments in the way that I just talked about, we are privileged to enter into the Father's presence with whatever we want to ask for. And whatever you ask in my name, I will do it, He says, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. It says that somewhere else. I'm giving you these commands, He says, finally, so that you may love one another. Just to remember what this is about. Love is not easy. It's complicated, it's difficult, it's unrewarding at times, but it's the best thing going. Amen. And if you keep at that and you stay with it, and you remember as well as you can what Jesus has said about how to do it, then you're going to be fruitful, and your fruit's going to last. You see, God's plan and God's purpose is to redeem the world. It's His world. He loved it enough to send His Son to die on our behalf, on behalf of anyone who's willing to come to Him. And because God loves this world, and God delights in this world, and God delights in His children, and He loves us just like He loves Jesus, He's given us the ability to enjoy all of His goodness and all of His gifts. I'm going to invite you. You know, we've said thank you to some mothers today. I'm going to invite you to thank God for the gifts He's given you, for the love and nurture He has put into your life. We're going to sing a song that says, "For the beauty of the earth, we raise our song of praise." But as you sing this song, think of all the things that God has given you. And take some time, because God dwells where there is praise. Let's stand together and sing.